Hi everybody, this is Bastiaan, and today we're going to take a look at the Orthoschnapp gambit. And the Orthoschnapp is a gambit where white sacrifices a pawn against the French defense. So in order to demonstrate, I'm going to play a game against an engine called Alex, which is rated about 2200. The odd thing about Alex is that it doesn't respect time control, so it will play its moves immediately. So I'm playing white. I haven't set up the board, so hopefully we're going to see the French defense soon enough. Well, there it is already, French defense. Now, white typically continues with d4, taking control of the center. However, in the Orthoschnapp, white plays c4. And the reason why c4 is played is a little bit in the spirit of the Sicilian. So white can exchange a flanking pawn for a central pawn. So black plays d5, continuing the French defense developments. Now pawn takes pawn, and white could recapture, but that would leave white with an isolated pawn on d2. Alternatively, if white plays, say, d3 in order to support the unprotected pawn on e4, we can continue with pawn takes pawn, and then queen takes queen, forcing king takes queen, and white will have lost castling privileges. So white does have to be careful to maintain his advantage. A nice way to continue is e5 followed by d4, giving white a strong pawn island in the center. However, with the Orthoschnapp gambit, white continues with queen to b3, sacrificing the pawn on e4. So we're seeing the engine take the pawn on e4. But white has a lot of pressure now on the weak square on f7 and has nice compensation. So we're going to continue with the pressure by playing bishop to c4. Black plays queen to f6 in order to protect the pawn on f7. So we're going to continue development with developing the minor pieces. First we play knight to c3, which creates an attack on the pawn on e4. Black plays queen to g6, so black is still protecting the pawn on f7. Also, he's protecting against the pawn capture with knight takes pawn. Finally, the queen is threatening the pawn on g2. Now, queen takes pawn on g2 isn't an immediate threat because the queen is needed to protect the pawn on f7. Otherwise, white can recapture his pawn and get a strong attack on the enemy king. We are continuing development with the second knight. Now, knight to f3 isn't possible because of pawn takes knight, so we're going to have to play knight to e2. So we're seeing bishop to d6. And finally, I want to develop my last minor piece. But white has some issues in doing so because he cannot fianchetto. Because the queen is blocking the pawn on b2, and he cannot play d3 or d4 unless he wants to sacrifice a pawn, because there's a pawn on e4. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to sacrifice a second pawn. We're going to play d3, and this will free up the bishop at the expense of an additional pawn. This pawn will be impossible to protect in the future. It's currently protected by the queen. As you can see, the engines don't like this move one bit. Of course, now black is threatening pawn takes knight, so we have to move the knight, and best place is f4. So that creates a fork against the queen and the pawn, because there are now two pieces attacking the pawn on d3. This will lead to bishop takes knight. So bishop takes. Apparently a strong advantage for black according to the engine, but it really isn't so. I can continue with bishop takes bishop, and we're seeing c6. Now white should probably castle. Knight to e7. We're seeing black has a lack in development. He's trying to develop his knight in order to castle, but we're going to play rook to e1 to pin the knight, preventing castling for the moment. Now we're seeing b6, and the reason why b6 is played is because if rook takes knight and king recaptures, and this bishop has moved, white can play queen takes pawn, check, and recapture the rook on a8. So in a way, black must move his b pawn in order to free up his bishop. So b6 is played. I'm developing the second rook to the half open file, and this of course creates an attack on the pawn on on d3. Now we're seeing bishop to h3, and this of course creates a mating threat on g2 with queen takes pawn. Now this can easily be prevented by bishop to g3. Let's see if I can find a better move. I don't think there's one. I'll just play bishop to g3 then. So I'm going to continue to create more pressure on the knight on e7. So queen a3 will do that. So we're seeing queen to g5 to protect. More pressure even. Bishop to d6. Now we're seeing bishop to e6 to remove one attacker on the knight, but we can simply exchange. Grab a free pawn. So black castles. Queen to b3 creates a nice discovered check. So knight to d5. I can play knight takes knight. Let's see if I can find something else. There's of course bishop takes rook. King recaptures, knight takes, pawn recaptures, queen to a4, threatening queen to a8 with mate. So we're seeing queen to h5. So now what, I can simply take on this pawn because the queen is also threatening the rook on d1. I think that's best. Yeah, rook takes. King to g8. Just take the second pawn. Of course, queen cannot recapture because then we get queen to e8 mate. So we're seeing pawn to b5. Check. Threatening both rook and queen. So I'm going to have to sacrifice one of those. It's a queen check, so then queen f4 check. Queen f4 check. King takes. Yeah, queen d6. Queen d5. d6. Check. Check. Mate. Alright, so that's the game with Orthoschnapp Gambit. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Have a great evening.